Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu, and with me is Renuka, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid foundation stone of Noida International Airport at Jewar in Uttar Pradesh. Says better infrastructure transforms entire region by transforming people's lives. President of India Ram Nath Kovind to lead the Constitution Day celebrations in Parliament's Central Hall on Friday. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu emphasizes the need for reforms in UN Security Council and other key international organizations. Addresses 13th Asia-Europe Summit virtually. India reiterates its commitment to contribute constructively to the implementation of Shanghai Cooperation Organization's mandate. India's candidate Praveen Sinha elected as delegate for Asia on the Executive Committee of Interpol. And in Indonesia Open Badminton, PV Sindhu and B. Sai Praneeth sail into quarterfinals in Bali. Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty win their doubles match. As India created history by administering over 100 crore vaccine doses against COVID-19, All India Radio salutes all the doctors, nurses, other frontline workers and all those who got vaccinated and made this possible. Even though the country has achieved this feat, we caution our listeners that the battle against COVID is not yet over. We appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and also help others get vaccinated. During the festival season, please follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact the national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi today laid the foundation stone of the Noida International Airport at Jewar in Gautam Buddha Nagar of Uttar Pradesh. Speaking on this occasion, the Prime Minister said this new airport will play an instrumental role in the development by paving the way for the modern infrastructure. He said the best modern infrastructure is being developed in the new India of the 21st century.
21वीं सदी का नया भारत आज एक से बढ़कर एक बेहतरीन आधुनिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का निर्माण कर रहा है। बेहतर सड़कें, बेहतर रेल नेटवर्क, बेहतर एयरपोर्ट, ये सिर्फ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट ही नहीं होते, बल्कि ये पूरे क्षेत्र का कायाकल्प कर देते हैं। गरीब हो या मध्यम वर्ग, किसान हो या व्यापारी, मजदूर हो या उद्यमी, हर किसी को इसका बहुत बहुत लाभ मिलता है।
The Prime Minister said this airport will not only provide tremendous employment opportunities to the people but will also play a vital role in increasing export from this region. Terming the Noida International Airport the logistics gateway of northern India, Mr. Modi said it will make the entire region a powerful reflection of the National Gati Shakti Master Plan. Attacking the previous governments for ignoring the development of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Modi said they always showed false dreams to the people of the state. He said Uttar Pradesh is scaling a new height of development under the present BJP government and making a significant mark in the national and international arena. He said after 7 decades of independence, Uttar Pradesh has started getting what it has always deserved. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, Union Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia and several state ministers were present during the occasion. Our correspondent reports that the development of this greenfield airport will boost domestic and international air connectivity and help in transforming the adjoining areas by attracting huge investment opportunities. The proposed site is close to major tourist attractions like Agra, Vrindavan, Mathura, which will facilitate the tourism sector. Spread over more than 1,300 hectares of land, the airport will have a capacity to serve around 1.2 crore passengers a year. Constitution Day will be celebrated in the Central Hall of Parliament House on Friday. Indian President Ram Nath Kovind will be leading the celebrations of Constitution Day. The occasion will also be graced by Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, ministers, MPs and other dignitaries. The general public has been requested to join President Kovind in reading preamble to the Constitution following all COVID-19 protocols. In order to ensure maximum people's participation, Parliamentary Affairs Ministry has developed two portals. One portal is for online reading of the preamble to the Constitution in 22 official languages and English. The other portal is for online quiz on constitutional democracy. Anyone can participate in these and get certificates. Our correspondent has filed this report.
A large number of people are expected to participate in the mass preamble reading tomorrow. The preamble is the introductory statement in the Constitution, which states the guiding values of the Constitution. Preamble declares India to be a sovereign, socialist, secular and democratic republic. The people of India are revealed to be the source of the authority of the Indian Constitution. The objectives stated by the preamble are to secure justice, liberty, equality to all citizens and promote fraternity to maintain unity and integrity of the nation. It was adopted on 26 November 1949 by the Constituent Assembly of India and came into effect on 26 January 1950. With Anupam Mishra, Suparna Saikya, AIR News, Delhi.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a special discussion on various facets of Indian Constitution. The participants are P.D.T. Achari, former Secretary General Lok Sabha, and constitutional expert N. Pragya Deora, air correspondent.
India's constitution was framed by a constituent assembly which was set up under the Cabinet Mission Plan 1946. This Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution on 26 November 1949, a date which finds its mention in the preamble of our Constitution. Due to the significance of this date, the Government of India in 2015 decided to celebrate 26 November as Constitution Day every year. In order to appreciate the Constitution, it is important that we understand the context in which it was framed. Could you explain to us the context, both domestically and internationally, in which the Constituent Assembly was framing this Constitution, and what were the challenges they had to face, and how did they overcome it?
See, the Constituent Assembly was elected in 1946. But before that, as early as in 1935, the All India Congress Committee had made this demand that a Constituent Assembly should be constituted so that free India's constitution could be framed. But the British government did not do anything in the beginning, but towards the end of the World War II, the British government woke up and suddenly they thought about the Constituent Assembly and then framing a constitution, and they wanted to give dominion status to India, which was not acceptable. And then finally, the Constituent Assembly was agreed upon and the Constituent Assembly elections were held. One very interesting thing about the election to the Constituent Assembly is that the elections were conducted on the basis of communal representation, not on adult franchise. Communal representation means the entire population was divided into three: Muslims, Sikhs, and the general. And certain seats were allotted to each of these groups. So elections were held. The Congress party got the maximum number of seats, and then the Muslim League under Jinnah secured majority of the seats. These were those areas which were Muslim dominated. But the Muslim segment of the Constituent Assembly did not join the deliberations. There were altogether 399 members in the beginning. But then, in the meantime, a lot of political developments took place in India. The Muslim League demanded partition. They wanted to have a separate nation. And finally, that came about in 1947. After that, the Constituent Assembly that met for India, that was reduced in size. We had about 299 members. Now, in this Constituent Assembly, they set up many committees. Most important committee was the drafting committee. The drafting committee was headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Actually, he did monumental work in the framing of the drafting of the Constitution. Entire drafting work was done by drafting committee. But the preamble was prepared or drafted on the basis of the objectives resolution which was moved by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in the first meeting of the Constituent Assembly. And in that resolution, the entire concept of a free India became the basis of the preamble of the Constitution. For example, the liberty, equality and fraternity, justice, social, economic and political, and freedom of expression, freedom of speech and freedom of conscience and freedom of religion. These were the things which were there in the objectives resolution. And the same thing find a place in the preamble of the Constitution. Now, the Constituent Assembly took about 3 years to complete the job. And finally, on 26 November 1949, the whole exercise was completed and the Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution. But certain provisions were brought into force, but the entire Constitution was not brought into force on that day. Then it was brought into force after 2 months, that is on 26 January 1950. That was declared as the Republic Day.
Since we're talking about the federal structure, how do you view the 101st Constitutional Amendment Act with regards to the Goods and Services Tax?
Well, you see, Goods and Services, that is the GST. GST is a provision where the states as well as the center come together and there are discussions on various taxation measures. So it is some kind of a cooperative effort. There, of course, the central government has greater weightage, but that is how it is. In concerns with the general approach of the Constitution with regard to the center-state relations. But it is a cooperative effort. Both the center and the states come together, sit together. There is a statutory forum where they discuss various details of the taxation measures and they decide. So that is not in conflict with the federation.
Another aspect that our constitution deals with is democracy, and free and fair elections are absolutely essential for a thriving democracy. In the current setup, whose responsibility is it with regard to electoral reforms, and how has India performed on this front?
The elections have been held in this country for a very long time. The first elections were held in 1952. The elections are conducted by the Election Commission, which is a constitutional body. It's an autonomous body. It has autonomous powers to conduct elections in a free and fair manner. That is the mandate of the Constitution, to conduct elections in a free and fair manner. The Election Commission has done a very good job in conducting elections, and they have issued directions. Those directions have also the force of law. So the Election Commission is all-powerful so far as the conduct of the elections are concerned. Now, so far as electoral reforms are concerned, well, electoral reforms basically done by Parliament, because we have a law which deals with all aspects of election. That is the Representation of People Act 1950 and 1951. Representation of People Act 1950 deals with the preparation of electoral rolls and the related matters, whereas the Representation of People Act 1951 deals with all aspects of the elections. Elections to the Parliament, elections to the state assemblies, elections to the office of the President and the Vice President. So all these are done by the Election Commission. But Representation of People Act 1951 deals with elections to the Parliament and also elections to the state assemblies and councils, wherever they are. That is a structure that we have in the Constitution. If the question is about the electoral reforms are carried out by Parliament by amending the law. In fact, electoral reforms, there are various suggestions come at different times from various quarters. Election Commission itself makes suggestions about electoral reforms.
So in your opinion, how has India performed on this front so far?
Electoral reforms have been done from time to time, but it is not that electoral reforms are done frequently. That is not required because we have a very stable kind of law which deals with all aspects of the elections. But periodically, amendments have been made in this law. I think this law has stood the test of time. With all these elections, all these years, the elections have been held on the basis of this law. There is always a scope for carrying out reforms in the electoral law. A responsive government in a democracy is certainly bound to listen to opinions which are coming from the civil society and from the constitutional bodies like the Election Commission and so on.
One more important aspect is the relationship between the judiciary, executive and the legislature. What has the Constitution envisaged in this regard?
There is a separation of powers in the Constitution. We have the executive, which is responsible to the legislature, that is Parliament. Here and in the states, it is the Assembly. So executive is a creature of the legislature. The executive means the Council of Ministers. That is the political executive. That comes from the legislature itself. Now, in a democratic setup, the executive is responsible to the legislature. That means they are accountable to the legislature. Therefore, there is a close relationship between legislature and the executive. But so far as the judiciary is concerned, judiciary has an independent role. They have to see whether the laws that are made by parliament and the state legislatures are in accordance with the constitution. If it is not in accordance with the constitution, if it violates the constitution, then that will be struck down by the judiciary. So the judiciary has a responsibility to protect the constitution. And protect the constitution means the judiciary has a right to protect the rights of the people which are enshrined in the constitution and do justice to the people. So doing justice is the primary duty of judiciary. And that duty is performed by judiciary without any fear of favor. So judiciary is independent. They cannot be influenced or coerced. So they have to take independent decisions. So that is the kind of relationship. So the power of the state's power has been divided between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Judiciary is independent. Judiciary looks into the acts of the legislature and also the executive and see whether these acts are in conformity with the constitution. And if it is not, then judiciary will strike down those acts as unconstitutional.
As a concluding thought, the Constitution of India has stood the test of time. Could you discuss as to what have been the reasons for this?
Well, the Constitution as a fundamental law of the land has stood the test of time. Test of time in the sense that this Constitution is flexible. It is flexible means it can be amended through a comparatively easy process. That is, 2/3 of the members present and voting in the House, each House, can amend any part of the Constitution. And therefore, that flexibility is available in the Constitution. And that is what actually made it meet the changing situations and the challenges. Because new challenges have come over these years, and every time the Constitution was amended to meet the changing needs, and yet the spirit of the Constitution remains the same. The basic approach and the basic philosophy of the Constitution has remained intact. So that shows the resilience of the Constitution.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has emphasized the need for reforms in the United Nations Security Council and other key international organizations to make them reflective of the contemporary realities and capable enough to deal with the contemporary challenges. Addressing the first plenary session of the 13th Asia-Europe Meeting (SM) Summit virtually from New Delhi on Thursday, Mr. Naidu said that the world is witnessing a grappling with rapid economic, technological and security challenges, and the current multilateral system has fallen short in providing an effective response to these challenges. He also emphasized that the reformed multilateralism is a key driving principle that India has pursued for a purposeful reform of existing global institutional structures. The two-day summit that was inaugurated on Thursday is being hosted by Cambodia in virtual format and is themed on strengthening multilateralism for shared growth. The Indian delegation at the SM13 is led by Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, who will also address the retreat session of the summit on Friday.
External Affairs Minister of India Dr. S. Jaishankar has highlighted India's commitment to contribute constructively to the implementation of the mandate of Shanghai Cooperation Organization at the 20th meeting of the SCO Councils of Heads of Government. He said, as the world moves towards practical implementation of trade and economic agenda of SCO, climate change impact of joint activities must be paid heed to. Dr. Jaishankar added that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent call for One Sun, One World, One Grid and Green Grid initiatives are expected to lead to the development of a cohesive and robust global grid. The External Affairs Minister said COVID pandemic has exposed the weakness of global institutions and it is time now to bring in much needed reforms to the global institutions, including the World Health Organization. He stressed on the need for reformed and reinvigorated multilateralism that reflects today's realities, which gives voice to all stakeholders, addresses contemporary challenges and puts human beings at the center of thought and policies. The Indian Air Force has received a boost to its fighter jet fleet as two second-hand Mirage 2000 fighter aircraft have arrived from France at its Gwalior Air Base. The two aircraft were acquired by the Indian Air Force as part of the program to make up the number of aircraft in the Mirage fighter fleet to around 50. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
India's candidate Praveen Sinha, Special Director of Central Bureau of Investigation, was today elected as delegate for Asia on the Executive Committee of the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol. The elections were held in Istanbul, Turkey, during the ongoing 89th Interpol General Assembly. Sources said this was a tough election, with India running against 4 other contestants for 2 posts. The 4 contestants were China, Singapore, South Korea and Jordan. Today's victory is the result of an intense and well-coordinated election campaign across the world. Crucial support of friendly countries was sought at bilateral engagements at different levels. Indian embassies and high commissions regularly followed up with host governments. Ambassadors and high commissioners resident in Delhi were similarly reached out to. Interpol is a vital body for tackling the rising spectre of transnational organized crimes, terrorism and cyber crimes. India's National Central Bureau also reached out to its counterparts around the world to campaign for this election. The Indian ambassador in Turkey camped in Istanbul for the last few days and held on-the-ground bilateral meetings with delegations for the final efforts to gain support. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that India has been elected to the UNESCO World Heritage Committee for 2021-25. In a tweet, the minister termed it as a good day for Indian diplomacy, as Praveen Sinha was also elected to the Interpol Executive Committee.
The first meeting of the India-UK Joint Working Group on Cyber Deterrence was held in virtual mode on Thursday. The Indian delegation was led by Atul Malhari Gotsurve, Joint Secretary Cyber Diplomacy from Ministry of External Affairs. The meeting was attended by senior cyber officials from respective ministries and departments from both the countries. Both sides discussed various key aspects related to cyber deterrence and ways to further deepen the existing bilateral cyber cooperation under the India-UK framework for the cyber relationship signed on 17th of April 2018 in New Delhi. India and the UK agreed to work closely with each other and hold regular consultations on addressing the challenges to cyber deterrence and for building effective cyber deterrence strategies. The government in Burkina Faso has extended the suspension of mobile internet services. Services were supposed to have been restored on Wednesday after being shut down for 4 days. The shutdown came amid anti-French demonstrations and growing political unrest in the country over insecurity. The government explained the initial suspension by citing national security and defense reasons. As a spokesperson said, concerns still existed.
Police in Somalia have confirmed the death of 8 civilians in a car bombing in the capital, Mogadishu. Some 17 other people have been wounded, including 13 children from a school near the blast scene. An Al-Shabaab suicide bomber driving an explosive-laden vehicle targeted a convoy of a private security firm, the Gulf, which is contracted to protect the UN. The police did not say if UN staff were hurt in the attack. Local media reports said the blast occurred during the morning rush hour near the busy Kilometer 4 junction. The Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab militants have confirmed carrying out the attack. Al-Shabaab frequently targets security forces and government officials in Mogadishu. The 18th meeting of the foreign ministers of Russia, India and China will be held in digital video conference format on Friday under the chairmanship of External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar. They are expected to discuss further strengthening of RIC trilateral cooperation, including exchange of views on various regional and international issues of importance. India took over the chairmanship of the RIC after the last meeting of RIC foreign ministers in Moscow in September last year. Following the meeting, Dr. Jaishankar will pass on the chairmanship of the RIC to the Foreign Minister of China for the next 1 year.
The sixth day of the cinematic festivity is underway at the 52nd International Film Festival of India, IFFI, in Goa. Connoisseurs and film lovers are queuing up to enjoy the festival. A report.
Films such as Bharat Prakriti Ka Balak, The Red Tree, Vastu Purush and The Giants evoked an incredibly good response from cinephiles today. The directors and artists of the film Me Vasantrao, Sweet Biryani, Sain Berry to Sandesh Kali and Soonpat addressed the press today. Marathi film Me Vasantrao is in contention for the Golden Peacock for the best film at IFFI this year. Director of the movie, Nipun Dharmadikari, expressed satisfaction that the film was being liked by film buffs. Speaking about his Gadwali movie Soonpat, director Rahul Rawat said that it displays the plight of his state Uttarakhand. This year, IFFI is providing a platform for talented women filmmakers from around the world. Director Setare Eskandari, whose film The Son of That Moon is being screened at the festival. Actor Ricardo Bombaghi and musician Alvaro Magodo were given a warm welcome on the red carpet today. Director Vajra Pancharya's masterclass was yet another salient feature of this day, with input from Mukesh Thali, Pavan, IFFI Desk, Goa.
Ace Indian shuttler PV Sindhu today registered a comfortable straight-game win over Germany's Yvonne Lee to cruise into the women's single quarterfinals of the Indonesia Open Super 1000 event in Bali. In men's single, Indian player B. Sai Praneeth defeated Christo Popov of France by 2-1. In another singles match, K. Srikanth lost by 0-2 in direct set to Denmark's Victor Axelsen. In men's doubles, Indian duo S. Ranikireddy and Chirag Shetty defeated Korean players M. H. Kang and S. J. Seo by 2-1 to cruise into the quarterfinal round. India has got its first win in the AFI Junior Men's Hockey World Cup 2021 this evening. The Indian junior team registered a tremendous victory in their second match of the World Cup by defeating Canada 13-1 in a one-sided fashion. India had to face 4-5 defeat against France in their first match. Drag flicker Sanjay scored a hat-trick for India in the second consecutive match.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Wall Street Journal writes Israel warns White House over striking partial nuclear deal with Iran. The Globe and Mail says Canada considers boosting military aid to Ukraine as Russia amasses troops at the border. Sputnik News writes United States organized summit for democracy to contribute tension. Russian Foreign Ministry says. Financial Times writes Spain expected to pass biggest budget in its history. South China Morning Post reports Vietnam to resume flights from China, Hong Kong, Singapore and 13 other places from December. Khalij Times reports Australia Security Committee meets as Solomon Islanders defy lockdown, set fires to buildings. And Tashkent Times says new Botswana variant with 32 horrific mutations could be worse than Delta, experts say. A quick look at the headlines once again. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi lays foundation stone of Noida International Airport at Jewar in Uttar Pradesh. Says better infrastructure transforms entire region by transforming people's lives. President of India Ram Nath Kovind to lead the Constitution Day celebrations in Parliament's Central Hall on Friday. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu emphasizes the need for reforms in UN Security Council and other key international organizations. Addresses 13th Asia-Europe Summit virtually. India reiterates its commitment to contribute constructively to the implementation of Shanghai Cooperation Organization's mandate. India's candidate Praveen Sinha elected as delegate for Asia on the Executive Committee of Interpol. In Indonesian Open Badminton, PV Sindhu and B. Sai Praneeth sail into quarterfinals in Bali. India is celebrating the 152nd birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Denmark. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.
News.